Chapter 10 of the Legion of Lazarus by Edmond Hamilton. Recording by Peter Eastman. Chapter 10. On the bridge of his yacht, Belliver turned to Hurst and said, "I've done what you wanted. Now find me that starship." Hurst nodded. "Take off." The rockets roared and thundered, and the swift yacht leapt quivering into the sky. Hurst sat quietly in his recoil chair. He felt a different man, changed entirely in the last few days. Much had happened in those days. Belliver had got busy on the radio even before his yacht left Titan, and the story of the Lazarites had burst like a nova upon the solar system. Already there were instances of suspected Lazarites being mobbed by their neighbors, and government was frantically concerning itself with all the new, far-reaching implications of the Humane Penalty. Close on the heels of this bombshell had come Vernon's angry accusations against Belliver, delivered as soon as he was given to the authorities on Mars. During the 20 Martian hours necessary for formal charge and the taking of depositions, and while Belliver's yacht was being refueled, Vernon's story of the starship went out on all the interworld circuits. And it had been as Christina had said. The whole solar system was frantic to have the Lazarites caught and stopped, and every man in space became a self-appointed searcher for the hidden starship. Belliver, letting his lawyers worry about Vernon's accusations, had already laid formal claim to that ship, based on the value of the stolen Titanite. "Where?" demanded Belliver now, in a fury of impatience. "Where?" "Wait," said Hurst. "There are too many watching, ready to follow you. They know what you're after. Wait till we're clear of Mars." He sat in his chair, looking into space. His drive was all gone, and the anger that had fed it. Somewhere, his son and his 2 daughters were drawing their first free breaths, relieved of a burden they should never have had to carry. They knew now that he was innocent, and they could think of him now without bitterness, speak his name without hate. He had done what he had set out to do, and he was finished. He knew what was ahead of him, but he was too tired to care. The yacht went fast, away from the old, red, weary planet. Hurst thought of Shearing and Christina and the others, laboring over their ship on the dark plain. He felt safe in doing this, because Vernon was gone, and the gray, evil man who had helped to torture Shearing aboard the Happy Dream was still in an Earth hospital, recovering from the blow Hurst had given him. They were out of reach, and Hurst was the only Lazarite Belliver had. He did not try to get through to Shearing, because he knew that was impossible, and there was no reason for it anyway. He let his mind stretch out and rove through the nighted spaces beyond Saturn, beyond Uranus and Neptune, beyond the black and frigid bulk of Pluto. He did not see the ship nor touch a Lazarite mind, and so he knew that they were still holding the cloak, still hiding from possible betrayal. He withdrew his mind and wished them luck. "We're clear of Mars," said Belliver. "Which way?" "That way," said Hurst, and pointed. "Toward the sun." The yacht swerved and steadied on a new course, toward the distant glare of Sol, and Belliver said, "What's the exact location?" "Can you trust every man in this crew?" asked Hurst. "Can you be sure not one of them would give it away when we stop to refuel? You're not the only one that knows about the starship now, remember." "You could tell me." "You're too impatient, Belliver. You'd want to head straight there, and it won't be that easy. They have defenses. We have to be careful, or they'll destroy the ship before we reach it." "Or finish their relays and go." Belliver gave Hurst a long look. "I'll trust you because I have to, but I wasn't making an empty threat. And I'll do it so there won't be any thought of murder. You'd better find me that ship, Hurst." From then on, Belliver hardly slept. He paced the corridors and haunted the control room, and watched Hurst with a gnawing, agonizing doubt. Hurst began to feel for him a distant sort of pity, as he might have felt for a man afflicted by some disease brought on by his own excesses. The yacht passed the orbit of Earth, refueled at an obscure space station, and sped on. Hurst continued to stall Belliver, ordering a change of course from time to time to keep him happy. At intervals he let his mind rove through those dark spaces they were leaving farther behind with every passing second. Each time it was a greater effort, but still there was no sign of the starship or its base, and so he knew that the labor still went on. By the time the yacht reached the orbit of Venus, a fan-shaped cordon of other ships had collected around and behind her, drawn by the word that Belliver was on his way to find the starship. Government patrols were in constant touch. "They can't interfere," said Belliver. "I've got a lien on that ship, a formal claim." "Sure," said Hurst, "but you'd better be the first to find it. Possession, you know. Bear off a bit. Mislead them. They're sure now they know where you're going." "Don't they?" said Belliver, looking ahead at the glittering spark that was Mercury. "There isn't any place else to go." "Isn't there?" Belliver stared at him, narrow-eyed. "The legend of the Vulcan was exploded by the first explorers. There is no intramercurial world." Hurst shot a swift, stabbing mental glance toward Pluto. Still nothing. He sighed and said easily, "There wasn't then. There is now." He brazened out the look of incredulity on Belliver's face. "These are Lazarites, remember, not men. They build a place for themselves where nobody would ever think to look. Not a planet, of course, just a floating workshop, a satellite. And now you know, so you can let them beat you to Mercury." "All right," said Belliver softly. "All right." They passed Mercury, lost in the blaze of the sun, and only a few ships followed them, far behind. The rest stopped to search the craggy valleys of the twilight belt and the bleak ice fields of the dark side. And now Hurst had run his string out, and he knew it. When no intramercurial satellite showed up, physically or on detector screens, there was no further lie to tell. He drove his mind out and away, to the cold planets wheeling on the fringes of Sol's light, and he sweated and prayed and hoped that nothing had gone wrong. And suddenly the cloak was dropped, and he saw a lonesome chip of rock beyond Pluto, all hollowed out for shops and living quarters, and the great ship standing in the mile-long plain, with the stars all drifted overhead. And the ship lifted from the plain, circled upward, and suddenly was not. Hurst was bitterly sorry that he was not aboard. But he told Belliver, "You can stop looking now. They've got away." He watched Belliver die, standing erect on his feet, still breathing, but dying inside with the last outgoing of hope. "I thought you were lying," he said, "but it was the only chance I had." He nodded, looking toward the shuttered port with the insufferable blaze outside. He said in a flat, dead voice, "If you were put out there, bound, in a lifeboat, headed toward the sun, yes, I could make up a story to fit that." In the same toneless voice he called his men. And suddenly the yacht lurched over, shuddering in the backwash of some tremendous energy. Hurst and the others were flung scattering against the bulkheads, and the lights went out, and the instruments went dead. Beyond the port, on the unshuttered side away from the sun, a vast dark shape had materialized out of nothing, to hang close in space beside the yacht. Hurst heard in his mind, strong and clear, the voice of Shearing saying, "Didn't I tell you the Brotherhood stands by its own? Besides, we couldn't make a liar out of you, now could we?" Hurst began to laugh, just a little bit hysterically. He told Belliver, "There's your starship. And Shearing says if I'm not alive when he comes aboard to get me, that they won't be as careful about warping space when they go away as they were when they came." Belliver did not say anything. He sat on the deck where the shock had thrown him, not speaking. He was still sitting there when Hurst passed through the airlock into the starship's boat, and he did not move even when the great ship vanished silently into whatever mysterious ultraspace the minds of the Lazarites had unlocked, outbound for the limitless freedom of the universe, where the wheeling galaxies thunder on forever across infinity, and the stars burn bright, and there is nothing to stop the march of the Legion of Lazarus. And who knew, who could tell, where that march would end? Aboard the starship, already 1,000,000 miles away, Hurst said to Christina, "When they brought me back from beyond the door, that was reawakening. But this is being born again." She did not answer that, but she took his hand and smiled. End of Chapter 10. End of The Legion of Lazarus by Edmond Hamilton. Recorded by Peter Eastman, 2016.